What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bourbon and Blunts. Today we have a special guest.
Yes, we do. We are here live, going live right now. There he is, the man. That's Dino.
Gentlemen,
How you doing,
how
Dino?
are you? Good morning.
Good morning,
Excellent.
buddy.
Excellent.
It is Saturday morning.
Yes, it is.
We're live right now on YouTube, on Bourbon and Blunts Digital Slang. We're also live on Twitter, and we're live on Facebook.
Man. Oh, we're live on all those platforms.
Yeah,
oh,
right
man.
now, live.
Nice.
So say hello to all your friends.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hello out there.
Yeah.
I don't have many friends. I'm sitting next to one.
And Dino.
And Dino now.
And Dino.
Yep. You're in the circle now.
That's right, buddy. That's right. Dino,
Yep.
thank you so much for taking this time to join us. I've been really wanting to talk to you quite a bit since we started doing the podcast. You know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, you've been so tremendously generous to us, especially, giving us some of your private stock with cigars, different gifts, bourbons. And, we really, really appreciate that, man. And what I want to ask you is, like, where has that generosity came from in your life? Because I feel like this is probably something that has either been cultivating in you, or there's been experiences of your life to where you wanted to, be generous to other people. So where did some of that come from for you?
A short answer, probably like extreme poverty. In the when I was coming up in in the business world, we had some successes in the beginning, but a lot of failures, and when you eventually, and we talked about this when you get to a certain place or a certain level, however you want to say it, you see what other people are doing, whether it's a startup or whether it's, a hobby they have or something. And when you have the means, you either go one of two ways. Either it's me, mine, and you hoard everything,
Mhm.
or, as one of my business partners and a great friend says, you share the wealth, right? You want to see other people succeed and help them out. And if you have it, you give it, right? And sometimes it's something that means a lot to somebody and a little to you, and sometimes it's the reverse. But I get at a point right now where helping people and watching people grow, giving people advice, even though some don't want to take it, is probably how I can leave something, when I'm gone, right? Is giving people help, memories, things like that. If I have it, I give it.
Very good.
Yeah, Dino, you've been more than generous, man. Thank you very much, bro. I say thank you all the time, but it's very, very, very kind of you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you talked a lot about business. What have you done? So I'm assuming like that's been your path, at least in your adult years.
Yep.
So have you started businesses? You're like more entrepreneurial?
Yeah. We would need probably a good 20 hours to go through the whole,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
What have you been doing as of recent?
The recent is the weird one. How it started. My first business I started was a gym. That was my first set of businesses, and I started that my senior year in high school. And what I did was I taught. Now this is going back to the 80s.
Okay.
I taught aerobics in an abandoned church in Massachusetts.
Were you like
So,
in style back then? Like,
dude, I'll tell you guys, another story, a later time. But yeah, it was. I had the spandex. I had both ears pierced. I had long platinum blonde hair.
yes,
Down here.
yes.
Yeah, it was a scene. So when I was younger, I was a national champion in powerlifting. This is when no one squatted, no one deadlifted. So all I wanted to do was own a gym. And I'm in high school, so I ended up convincing this credit union to give me $4,000 to start a gym. So I started in an abandoned church. I taught aerobics, built up a following, got a space, put equipment in, built that up to 3 locations, got rid of them, had a friend who was in the food business. I bought a couple of trucks, built up routes. I had food distribution routes from Maine down to New Jersey. You know, had a couple of, sold those off, had a couple of more businesses. Not all were successes, right? Had a good string of failures. And then I got in, I went to work for some companies, built up some companies, and then went on my own, probably in like my late 20s, back to being an entrepreneur because I realized as hardworking as I am a horrible employee. So if a company has a standard operating procedure, I'm not a creative person. I'm not the guy who's going to invent, the next product or service. My real strength as a business person is taking either a product or a service, seeing the process and tightening it so I can make a good service great or a great service spectacular. And that's always been my thing is I'll look at what's successful in an industry, I'll figure out how they do it, and then I'll just trim all of the fat off it. Right. And that's
Okay.
that's pretty much, how I did. And then I ended up getting into commodities and, the oil industry. And then when I amassed a certain amount of those successful type people around me, and this is right around the time like I moved to New York. I grew up in Massachusetts, and then lived in New York City. And when I got to New York City, that's when you know the network opened up, and then I realized I'm like, oh man, there's a sea of opportunity here. And because I was trustworthy, I did clean business. Anytime someone had an opportunity, they would always, ask me to be a part of it. So, when I amassed a certain amount of wealth, then I started deploying capital into these companies while still building my own. Then I sold my last 2 companies. So I retired when I was 40 and then sold my last 2 companies, stayed stayed retired for quite a while, and then my current business partner that I'm helping him build, his companies out. He was after me for 5 years, trying to get me out of retirement, and then finally, about a year ago, maybe a little more, I decided to come out and help him build out. He had a bunch of companies. They were they're great companies, successful, but needed to sort of tighten everything up and get everything in. And he has a tremendous amount of opportunity that's around him, but he needed somebody to get everything over the finish line, right? And that's kind of one of my strong suits. So I've been helping him for a couple of years now, and yeah, I'm almost working more now in retirement than I did, you know, back then. But we talk about finding surrounding yourself with the right people. My business partner up in New York, you'll never find a nicer, more honest man than that guy, right? And that's the only reason that I came out of retirement. I wouldn't come out and do work for anybody other than this guy. Guys, if he tells you something, it's, he's a man of his word. And those are the kind of people I surround myself and do business with. Now, and then I have, through all the years of, funding startups, and, I have all of that, that I keep an eye on. And I think, Jeff, I sent you the videos from the music company, that we
Yeah.
have, when we put on that concert. That
Yeah.
that is, an insane story.
Looks amazing.
Yeah, we talk about, entrepreneurship. That was a company that came to me in 2016, I believe. It was a software company. And, I was at an event and they approached me to fund them. And they had a social media drinking app. And it was a phenomenal concept. So I said, okay. So, he was after me for a couple of months. So I put some seed money, round A in there. And the company got some traction, fell back, got some traction, fell back, and it never kind of really took off. We went through a couple of different iterations. Then COVID hit, and a
Mm.
lot of it had to do with bars and restaurants. And I figured, I'm like, okay, well, this thing's dead. I'll just, write this thing off. But credit to Dennis Cunningham, who's the CEO, and the founder. He stuck with it. He changed that company 3 or 4 times, and then somehow now we're in the music business, and now we're putting on private concerts. We just did, private concert with, Gwen Stefani. We've got, Luke Combs, you know who that guy is, the
Mhm.
country guy.
Yeah.
We're doing his concert, November 11th. I'm gonna miss that because I'm gonna be in Anguilla, but we're doing that one. And when we did the Gwen Stefani, this is 8 years ago. I put the money in 7 years. I put the money in, and when we did the Gwen Stefani concert, I ended up going there, and I'm figuring, I'm like, oh man, is anybody going to show up to this thing? And we sold out a baseball stadium, and
Oh, wow.
I got to we parked the car. My wife and I, get there and get into the valet, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Jordan, it's this way." And we're walking up, the back of the stadium, and I looked at her. I was like, "Oh man, I hope people are gonna show up here because I mean the tickets were a lot, right? It's a private event."
Mhm.
And we got to the top of the stadium, and I looked down and I saw. I'm gonna start tearing up, and I saw the stage out on the field, and the stadium's packed, and the company's banners are like 40 feet, tall, and the company name is there. Oops, all I could do to, not bawl my
Mm.
eyes out. And then when I got down there, I got to see Dennis, we're hugging each other, and it's a testament to there's no easy road to
Yeah.
this. No easy road. Just when you think, either your company or opportunity is down, you can change it. You just have to stick with it. And, to Dennis's credit, phenomenal businessman. He had his vision. He stuck with his vision. So, he's like, "Oh, thank you, you stuck to me." He says, "I got a surprise for you." I'm like, "Oh, what?" He says, we just had a raise a couple of days ago, and we had an investor come in, and the company now, it's 8 years later, the company's valuated at 300 million. We did the
Damn.
raise at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, just there's opportunities like that out there, and those opportunities I've been afforded because I've been around, my accountant's clients and those type of people, and you know people help me along the way, and I in turn help the people around me. So
That's a beautiful thing, man. So oftentimes I hear people say, well, they're rich because, they stepped on the toes of other people, or they're
yeah,
successful because, they did things that are shady to others. And I just never subscribe to that kind of mentality because I'm just like, well, you know, although that I'm sure that's true to some degree with maybe
mm,
some
it
wealthier,
is.
successful
Yeah,
people, but I think the majority of people are just normal human beings, just working hard, being passionate about something or motivated about something, and just, staying with it, just like you said, being consistent and
mm,
things just working out for them. And, uh, just listen to some of your story. That's kind of what it seems like with you, man. Like, you
yeah,
just, you stuck with a lot of different things and you networked well. You
yep,
put yourself in different situations and that wasn't, maybe some of it was, coincidental to some degree, but a lot of that I think was, a planned act on your end to where you wanted to put
Yeah.
yourself in front of other people and give yourself the most opportunities that you possibly could. And it seemed like it worked out, man.
Yeah. That the old saying, you make your own luck. I would say of my career, I'm 80% lucky, 20% skill. But of that 80% luck, I've made every single percentage of that. I put myself in those situations. And I can tell you a lot of these setbacks, and the failures that I had, some were definitely, my fault, especially in, the early days when I didn't really, I wasn't the greatest businessman, when I was younger. But probably when I got older, the biggest failures that I've had were people taking advantage of me.
Yeah. Mm.
Those and you want to think, and this is how, anyone who thinks life is fair, it 100% is not.
No.
I can tell you almost every single one of those people that have, screwed me or taken advantage of me, they're doing fine. They are, they, have a house like mine, they have a life like mine, and, they're on to, the next scam or scheme
Yeah.
or, whatever. But those people are out there, and, you can't, you win a few, you lose a few, but you keep on going, you
Yeah.
know?
So Jeff and I, as you know, we both own businesses as well.
Mhm.
And what would you say, as someone who's been down the road a lot further than we are,
Mm.
what would you say to us, from a either a wisdom or advice standpoint to help us keep moving down the path?
Uh, it, I'll treat it like, how most young entrepreneurs come to me, or even, seasoned people that come to me. You have to reverse engineer your dream, right? You have to figure out where it is you want to be and then work backwards, right? It's
Okay.
the same thing in business, right? If you're trying to figure out a process, you have to look at the end result and then work backwards. To some people, they want a good family. They want a decent house, a few bucks in the bank, good friends, car that doesn't break down. They want experiences in life more than assets. Someone like that, I give advice totally different than someone is like, I gotta have a minimum 6,000 square foot house. I need, a house down in Miami. I need a certain amount of wealth. I want to go on X amount of vacations a year. It's a totally different, piece of advice. But then you
Right.
also have to look and see what the person's skill level is, right? You could have the greatest dreams in the world, and you're just not that type of person, which is one of the issues I have with a lot of things that I see on social media, and you know, I mean, Jeff and I are heavily into the digital asset space,
Mhm.
right? And that breeds a lot of that unattainable, wealth, you know, type talk. And not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is cut out to be their own boss. And if there's one easy way to tell, if you have to look at motivational videos and all that stuff, this life is not for you.
Mm.
Mm.
It is not for you, right? The best motivator is poverty. This is the best
Mm.
motivator, right? I will, and I'll tell you guys, and a few people know, and my wife knows, but when I was coming up, I had no money, right? And any money that I had to go right back into the business. And there's literal times when, you have no money to eat, right? And I'm not the type of person that's gonna go and lean on somebody. There's plenty of times, when I was not a kid and I would steal from supermarkets to eat. And one of the things I still do to this day, if I stay in a hotel is I'll walk the floor at night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I always take a picture of someone who left their room service out there, after they're done eating.
Mhm.
Because what I used to do was at night, I would go to hotels and I would go and eat. To eat, I would eat someone's room service that they left out there. That's how I survived,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Those are the type of people who will do anything to make it,
Yeah.
right? Is that worth it? I don't know. Maybe.
You're surviving.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
poverty, I could definitely see like how
Yeah.
that can be the best motivator.
And
But
that's not hurting anyone either.
no, I don't see that
Yeah.
hurting
No,
anybody,
no.
right? But so you so you're in this situation, you're in poverty. You're doing things like going into hotels and eating food that's been, put out from the people that have already ate.
Yeah.
Where do the so you have this motivation though, like you want a better life, but then where does the
Yeah.
skill set come in? Because I feel like just kind of before we went live, this is something that we were kind of talking a little bit about. You got to be taught different things, or in your case, do you think a lot of this was inherited or inherent in you? Because I see a lot of people that are in poverty
Mm.
that stay in poverty. They don't
Yeah.
they're fine with, maybe a government handouts. They're not going to live the best life or anything like that, the most, luxurious life, but, they got a roof over the head, some food in their stomach, have maybe a vehicle to drive and they're fine with that. For you, obviously you could have taken that path, but what happened for you to where you're like, you know what? Not only am I in poverty, but now I need to project myself to a different level. Did somebody teach you that, or was this just like inherent inside you?
Dino, real quick before you answer, we got to give a shout out to everybody that's here watching.
Oh, yeah.
So there are a bunch of people here watching. We got 12 people in here now, it looks like. So we're just going to say what's up to everybody, and then we're going to get right back to that question.
Okay.
Purge, what's going on, Purge? Aylin, good morning, gentlemen. Shared on my Facebook already.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Who else we got? Trey is here. Always nice to see you, Trey. Jeremy is here. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Barry Johnson, what's up, Barry? Purge says Dino makes us all better people in life.
Yeah.
Yes,
I try.
some good advice.
Gwendolyn G, good morning. Nice to see you. Jeremy, good morning. Gingel Loki. I don't know what that means, Barry. I don't know what that means. Peter, what's up, Peter? How are you? Thanks for coming through. Edwin is also here. And then Aylin says nothing wrong with that. Finding a way to survive without hurting anyone. That's just makes you more driven in life.
Right.
Yeah. True.
And we are all cut up. So now.
Yeah. So, I had some disadvantages, when I was younger. Had no idea, but I'm dyslexic, right?
Okay.
And in school, my grades weren't that great because, I just couldn't read. Math, the way they taught it in school was extremely tough for me. Couldn't spell, right? And that, it was tough, and no one really talked about dyslexia where I grew up. So, just kind of figured like, oh, Dino's just going to be one of these lost, people that, whatever. And so when I ended up going to high school, I didn't actually go to a regular high school. They figured, I wasn't smart enough. Not they, but I probably wasn't going to be smart enough to have anything. So I'd have to learn a trade. So I ended up going to a trade high school. So that trade high school, you do 2 years of academics and then 2 years of whatever trade. So I have 2 years of a high school education. And in the trade, I chose carpentry. And long story short, I'm the world's worst carpenter. So even that, I was extremely bad at. But one of the things that happened was I was so bad at carpentry that the carpentry teacher in the shop, we had to make this wine rack,
Mhm.
and I had so many mistakes. It was like the whole year's project, and I had so many mistakes in the very beginning. He told me, he said, "Look," he says, "I'll give you a C if you just go and take care of the lumber racks, up in the top for the rest of the year. You'll get a C." Because he was sick of having to correct all my
That's
shit.
awesome though. And
And
he was
and
he
and
was
I,
he was kind of able to do that for you.
yeah. Well, here's where I took advantage of his kindness. So I was like, okay. So we had these lumber racks that were up on like a second floor, and I moved a bunch of the lumber racks, a bunch of the lumber out and made an aisle, and I ran a dice game in high school. So
That's not what I was expecting.
yeah, that was like my first intro, and I'm like, well, shit. I mean, if I'm up here and I'm not doing anything, right, and there's a whole bunch of degenerates, down there, that I grew up with. I was like, yeah. So I literally, that was like my first business. I ran a dice game up in the lumber racks of the high school,
That's
and
fantastic.
then so then I ended up, I competed in powerlifting, and all I wanted to do was open a gym. I had no idea how to run a business, right? And I thought, oh, this is great, right? I'll just buy a bunch of equipment and everybody will come. Obviously not the case. But then as time went on, the dyslexia thing actually I think strengthened how I looked at things, because I couldn't get to I couldn't get to a certain spot like in a book or in a math problem the way everyone else did. So because of dyslexia, I had to find another way to get there. And through years of doing that, I developed that skill that I talked about earlier, whereas I can look at a process or a product or something and figure out the better way to get to that end, right? If a process takes 10 steps, I can look at a process and get it down in 6. And if you can do that, those 4 steps that you cut out, that's additional profit, right? So
Right.
so Jeff, if you could screen print and you could take 2 or 3 steps in the process out, you would have more margin, right, per
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah.
And you do that over scale, and eventually that turns into
Just profit.
a good
Yeah.
yeah. And that's sort of where I started to develop. And the other weird thing that happened is when I was younger in school, I was horrible at math. And then when I got out, the one thing I realized is that in life, the precision of math really doesn't matter. It's being able to estimate, right?
Mm.
And that's sort of where I developed, that skill, is now I can evaluate a company on the back of an envelope. I can run a company's numbers in my head. It freaks my wife out, right? She calls me the human Excel sheet, because I can just do math problems in my head. And I think one of the I think other people who have dyslexia have it, is you don't think of numbers in your head as numbers. In my head, when I run a company's financials, the numbers look like shapes to me, right?
Mm.
So, your sales, in my head usually look like a square, right? The cogs usually look like a circle. Then I have everything below the line. And then in my head, the shapes just kind of morph into something. And, in a company who has, you know, 45, 47 million in revenue, I can predict their next quarter's revenue within a couple of $1,000. It's weird, but it's those kind of things have helped me along the way. And I was just someone who would never quit. I don't have that quit in me. It's sort of that, I'll do you guys remember, I'm sure you guys, you remember Pumping Iron, the
Oh
movie?
yeah. Absolutely.
right? So you remember that scene with it wasn't Ken Waller, it was Mike Katz. Mike Katz was talking about when he was young and people used to make fun of him, at the
Mhm.
dance, and he'd be like, I'd go out in the track and I'd run and be like, I'll show you, I'll show you. That's me, right? Tell me I can't do something, I will do it better than anybody, or
That's fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Peter says, Dino, really good info, and I can resonate with that a lot. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah. A lot of people, have the same, similar story. Yep.
That's interesting. So, I mean, you've basically used some type of disability in a way, like your dyslexia, and almost have kind of, it seems like made it a superpower in one way or another.
Yeah. They're all tools. Your personality, the people around you, everything is a tool. You can either, use it to help build a house, or you can use it to destroy something, right? Some
Right.
people, some people use psychedelics to enhance themselves. Other
This guy,
people
right, yeah.
just, right. Other people use it and they just tune out of life, right? It's the same tool, but used in
Right.
a different way, right? I could sit there and have a pity party, and say, oh, I got a second grade, reading level, blah, blah. Or I could figure out a way to read, the way I should. And one of the ways I learned how to read was apparently when you read, when you look at a word, you look at 2 letters to the front and 3 letters behind. That's how a normal person would read. With my disability, I would end up seeing like 5 or 6 words in front and like probably 7 or 8 words behind. So I couldn't see words, you would just read sentences, right? And then, so within 2 seconds of reading, you're lost, right? You can't,
Right.
everything blends in. So what I learned to do was I learned to look at the space in between paragraphs, the blank space, and that was like my reset. So
Okay.
I would look at like the first, sentence, look at the space. Second sentence, look at the space. Third sentence, look at the space. And I would constantly have to do that. And that's what sort of reset my brain. So I had to teach myself, basically how to read at that, at a normal level. Which was great in, school, or, if you're, reading the newspaper back when they had newspapers. But when you get a contract and the paragraphs are about, 800 sentences long,
Mhm.
and you don't see a space in between paragraphs, I would have to go to the margins, right? Instead of the paragraph. So, people have, look, of all the disabilities, I'd rather have dyslexia than, be a quadriplegic, or,
Yeah.
Right. For
some
yeah.
real, there are people with, real disabilities, right? Mine was a learning disability, which, a person with work can easily get over. What I'm impressed with, the people who have real adversity, real disability, and, they run marathons,
Yeah.
people who come from really broken homes, who turn that corner and, and have a great family. Like people who break that cycle. Those are the people, you should celebrate. Me, one day when I'm dead, all this will be gone, right? But there are people in this world who really, touch people and, make the world a better place. So
Yeah, well, but I think you're still also doing that. I don't know if you're giving yourself enough
yeah,
credit. I understand what
I
you're
do it in
saying.
my own, yeah, but there's degrees of, like
100%.
I hate when people, use that word, like making, that phrase, you made it, or, you're successful. Depends. There's a million, there's a million definitions to that
Yeah,
word.
you can define successful in many different ways.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dina,
Yep.
have you ever read the book Psychology of Money?
No.
No. Okay. I know you're dyslexic. Do you like to
No,
read
audiobooks. Yeah,
audiobooks? Okay, there's
yeah.
Okay, there's an
Yep.
audiobook too. One of the aspects, or one of the chapters, it's more in the beginning of the book. Really good book, but the idea, it's like luck versus risk.
Mm,
You have to take risks in order to, project, I guess propel yourself further in life. But
yep.
also, just because you take risks doesn't mean you're going to be successful. There has to be some type
Wow.
of
Yeah.
um, luck aspect to it. And, I guess
Yep.
with what kind of you're saying, I mean, you've taken a lot of risks in your life. Some of
Mm,
them were successful, some of them were not successful.
yep.
And but even someone with some type of disability, right? I mean, how often do we hear people that have a disability, and all they focus on is their disability and the limitations that they have, and then they never take a risk to project or propel themselves further in life? You had some type of disability. You didn't let
Mm,
it disadvantage you in any type of way, and you kind of looked at it from a different perspective. How can I use this maybe to my advantage, and take these risks? And it seems like it paid off for you. And if anything, I mean, it almost maybe seems like the dyslexia was, like I said, like a benefit to you.
yeah. Yeah. And it's tough to look at those, those other people, who never take advantage of, of that, because you don't know what's around them, right?
Yeah.
You look at somebody, a homeless person on the street, you don't know their life.
No.
How many times do you go out? I mean, I don't know even know who goes to malls anymore, but when we used to go to malls, there's what, a couple of thousand people in the mall. Everyone has a story, right?
Yeah.
You walk through the mall and this is all your world, but there's 1,000 stories in there of people who maybe want to overcome their situation, but they've got a spouse or parents or family that hold them down, or they they have a child young, and they're stuck in that job, and they don't have that opportunity. And then there's plenty of people who just have tons of opportunity and piss it away,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I know plenty of both,
Yeah.
plenty of both.
Peter says, I have found there are two types of people: one that uses their inabilities as an excuse, or the second one that rises to the occasion to prove everyone wrong and reach their potential.
Mm.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Jeff Hale is also here now. Shout out to Jeff. By the way, we've been streaming for almost 40 minutes already.
All right.
So Dino,
Nice.
we do have to do something with you.
Yep.
So just in case, it's time for
What's inside you?
All
All right. Dino, you
right.
you ready to get asked some other questions,
Yeah.
my friend?
Yep.
you
Absolutely.
got questions ready?
I can ask them the same questions
Yeah, we
that
talked
we
about
talked
earlier.
about earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Dino. So first question, buddy, nothing too crazy. Who in your life brings you the most joy?
My wife. Yep.
And how long have you been with your wife for? If you don't mind me asking.
This month is 12 years.
12 years. How
Yep.
did you and your wife meet?
Match.com.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
I lived in New York City, and then I retired, came down to Florida, and I was here for a year. And the dating pool in Florida is very different than the dating pool in New York City.
Okay.
So it was tough dating down here. And then I was on Match.com, and her friends made her a profile, and she got on there the first night, and I messaged her, and then she messaged me back. We went out to dinner. I don't think we could stand each other the first the first time, but then we went out on a second date, and inseparable ever since. So
Oh man. And
yeah.
what about your
You'll
wife?
you'll never find I know, like, what about her, is the thing. You will never find two people who are more opposite.
Oh,
She
interesting.
is literally the exact opposite of me.
Okay.
And in 12, I was just telling my business partner the other yesterday, because we're going on vacation with them next. I don't take many vacations. So, we're going to Anguilla in a couple of months, and we're talking about our wives. And I was telling him, uh, you'll never find someone more opposite than Trisha and I. But in 12 years, we have not had a single fight, not one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's
man.
amazing.
We never argue. We never, nothing is, and I never argue with anybody. Like, I've been through so much. You know, I mean, what really, some
Yeah.
kid knocks my garbage can over, or somebody, runs into my car. Whatever, man. And nothing. We take, and we have a very good life, right? There's nothing in my life you can really complain about. So, it's
That's awesome.
Aylin
yeah, it's
says,
good.
Dino, you're such a great and humbled man. My hat's off to you. You're a great mentor to anyone who needs it. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aylin. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful, buddy. What do you feel like your wife balances you out?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I could easily, left to my own devices,
Hmm.
go back to working 16, 18-hour days,
Mm.
and take the rest of my life and not enjoy it. Like I said, I never take vacations. She is constantly on a plane. She's, it like the running joke is she just doesn't even tell me anymore, or she tells me and I just don't listen. But she'll just come up to me and she'll be like, "Oh, I need my suitcase." I'm like, "Where are you going?" She's like, "Oh, I'm going to Italy for a couple of weeks." I'm like, "Oh,
Nice.
okay."
Peter
And
says,
it's
oh, go ahead. Finish.
no, it's never like, "Oh, you're going away." No, she goes. That's what makes her happy. She does what makes her happy. I do what makes me happy. And
That's
that. And then we
beautiful.
find we have like the commonality with us is television. And Jeff knows I'm a huge TV and movie
Yeah.
person.
We talk about
That's
shows a
our
lot.
thing, right? If you look up there, I've got a theater upstairs, movie theater upstairs. So we'll go there at night, sit in the movie theater, and watch movies. So
That's awesome.
That's cool, man. That's beautiful.
Peter says, I always tell my kids when we see a homeless person that we are all 2 to 3 bad decisions from being them. Never forget that.
That's the truth, man.
Very,
And
very
I've said
true.
this before. For those of you who don't know this, go check out the YouTube channel, Soft White Underbelly.
Good channel. Good
Oh my
channel.
God. So you know what I'm talking about, Dino?
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. What I love about some of those interviews is, you watch people on there that, most people would deem like, oh, the low rung of society, so to speak. And you
Yeah.
listen to their stories and you start realizing like, oh man, like that's just another person. That's just another human being. And I said like, I could easily have been one choice away
Well,
and
yeah.
be down that path,
Yeah.
So
That's what turns most people evil.
Yeah. How many people are one back injury away from being hooked on Oxycontin and ruining their life?
hell, you know what, Dino? I know
Yeah.
quite a few, I'd say 2 handfuls of people who got hooked on prescription painkillers because of accidents they were in or injuries that they had, never any prior drug use. And then boom, freaking hooked for some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, overdosed now.
So we got one more
Yeah.
question we're going to ask you, Dino, but I
Okay.
want to get the rest of the comments real quick. So the Hawks TV, good morning. Purge also says, I fall in the category as I'm a superstar in life with my work ethic among my peers, but too lazy to be a mega superstar.
All right.
And I'm okay with that.
Hey, man, B-list celebrity is still okay.
And then fucking Purge. And then Aylin says, Dino just hit another topic you guys discussed. Sleep divorce is good, but also individually and togetherness are what makes a relationship work.
And Dino, you kind of just you mentioned it where your wife loves to travel and you basically do what you love, she does what she loves, but you also have your commonality as well. And I Scott and I we often say this with each other, like in order for a relationship to be very successful, you have to have your own individual time. You have to be your own human being, you have to have your own interests, and so does the other person. And I think that does really help create a healthy balanced relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. One more question,
buddy.
Yeah.
All right. You got it? You want me to get it, bud?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So question is, what do you wish, or I'm sorry, who do you wish was still in your life today? Or who do you wish you were still in contact with today?
That I'm not still in contact with?
Mhm.
I honestly don't think anyone. I
Okay.
think I think like
I like that answer.
I'm still
Yeah,
I'm
dude,
s-
yeah.
I'm s- I think I'm still young enough to where I haven't lost, through death, most of my family, like my parents, in the, 80s,
Mhm.
still healthy. No real, yeah, I honestly, it's a great question, but I've been lucky. I don't have a lot of loss in my life, up to this point,
Or what about a
and
friend that you just lost contact with?
I keep my circle extremely small.
Smart.
And those people I'm still in contact, like people I've done business with in my 30s, I still am in contact with all those people. The only people that I'm really not in contact with anymore are the people who have, screwed me in business
Yeah.
over the years.
Okay.
But anybody I've ever cared for, they are still, believe me, it's a very small group. They're still in my life. So yeah, I'm lucky for that. That's a great question. Yeah.
Oh, very nice, man. Very. And that's all for what's inside
Yeah.
you.
We're like two big
No.
ass children.
Like, exactly. We're like,
Right.
So can I ask you guys some questions?
sure.
Shoot.
Okay. So let's go back to the earlier topic. When I said, you sort of had to reverse engineer. What are both of your, I'm sure, Jeff, I think you and I are pretty close to the same age. I might be a little bit older, but what are both of your goals in life as you see it to where you are now, like and a goal that you're working towards, right? Because you have your regular life where you get up, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you do your things. Those are the things you do. But your aspirations at your age now versus when you were younger. What
Mm,
is it that you both are trying to do? Where do you want to get to where you think you'll be like, hey, you know what? Now I'm gonna coast.
mm. Go ahead, buddy. You want to answer first?
You can.
Okay. Dina, so where I was, so I'm 36. I just turned 36 last month. And when I was a kid, so both my parents, now I'm just going to lay a little bit of foundation just to elaborate on my thought process a little bit. So both my parents not college educated. Um my dad's a truck driver, still a truck driver to this day. My mom, she started out she didn't go back to work till I was in middle school, started out as a secretary, kind of worked her way up in a school system, worked her way up to like an administrative level. But so my path early on from my parents was you're going to go to college, you're going to do the best you can, try to get a scholarship, whether that's through academics or sports. And this way you can get a good job and you can have a nice life. So basically like a middle class life. And I did that and I was super motivated and I worked extremely hard for that. And I achieved those goals rather early. I got my, I graduated, I was 21, 22, got a job, I got a job right away teaching. And I thought that was it, man. And then, I bought my first house when I was 24. And I remember sitting in my house, I'm 25 at this point, sitting in my house, I'm working a full-time job, part-time job. And I felt like I just barely pay my bills. And I'm just like, man, is this going to be the rest of my life? Is this what I'm doing from now on where I have to work multiple jobs? How could I ever, support a home, a wife, maybe kids, two vehicles on, and just working my balls off all the time? And so that's when I started thinking like, well, what can I do? What can I do to make extra money besides just going to work? I need to start making passive money. And that's when I started investing in real estate. I started investing in rental properties and to generate as much passive money. So essentially, long story short, my goal now is I want freedom of time. I feel like I work so much between different jobs and businesses and every little side hustle that I have that I feel like I'm trying to pursue the freedom of time. This way I can spend the time doing what I genuinely wanted to do with the people that I love and care about, because time is the most precious commodity that we have. And I want to spend it with those that I love, doing what I want. I don't necessarily like being told what to do by other people, especially a boss. So, through that goal, I was like, okay, well, how can I create as much passive money as possible to create the freedom of time? And that's, I kept investing heavily in real estate. I started an ATM business about, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now. And that's going fairly well. I want to grow that even more. So again, really the goal is just generate as much passive money. The problem is now I feel like I'm in this quagmire a little bit in my life, especially since COVID hit. I had 15 rental properties at the time when COVID hit. Half of them weren't paying. Our fearless leaders, basically said, well, you don't have to, you have to pay your rent, but if you don't pay your rent, well, nobody can evict you. So I basically was paying I'm still, dude, that fires me up, man. I'm still to this day, Dino, I got one property I'm still paying for. I've been paying for them for over 3 years for free. They've been living for free off me. And and I'm going through the whole court process. COVID messed a lot of things up. So it kind of drained me a little bit financially on that end, between paying for lawyer fees, between paying for mortgages for people that weren't paying, taxes, insurance. How the one property owes me $60,000, man. I'll never see that money. But I'm still,
that money's gone.
It's gone. Working multiple jobs, hustling, doing whatever it freaking takes to survive so I can achieve that goal, not only for myself, but for my loved ones, to be able to create freedom of time for everybody. So that's where I'm at.
Jesus Christ.
I had to lay it out.
Dude, it was all I could do not to insert that, the line from Office Space when he's talking about, he's talking about like, oh, I want to be rich. And his next door neighbor is like, oh, you don't have to be rich to do nothing. My buddy's broke. He doesn't do shit all day. I was holding that in my head going, oh, this is not the time to say that. This is not the time to say that.
You should have said it. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, so
what about you, Jeff?
It's free. It is freedom of time, but because of YouTube, I think my dreams have changed a little bit. I don't ever want to work for anybody ever again.
Yeah.
Freedom from being told what to do is the greatest gift I've ever gave myself. I just need the money to kind of equal that out, because freedom of time, even with the print shop, because of COVID, that forced me to step back and not work 12, 14, 15 hours a days. So now I'm doing 5, 6, 7 hour days. And then I do what I want the rest of the day, which is usually the gym and then YouTube or just chill. But now I see the potential of YouTube, which is mountains above what the potential of the print shop is. So YouTube will allow me to work for myself. It will allow me to work from anywhere in the world. It will allow me to travel, and it will allow me to play with tech, things that I love. So that is my future goal is 3 to 5, maybe 3 to 6 years, just do YouTube full time.
Yeah. I think you're definitely on the right path with that. It might not be YouTube after, let's say, a decade, but I believe, building your own customer base, right? You're doing it through YouTube right now, and then monetizing that.
You're building a brand, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and then you just take that into whatever else, you do, and it's the
Yeah.
same thing, I did is cultivating the people around me, you're cultivating the people around you, and eventually, those people will, have, they have value, other than monetary value,
Yeah.
those people will give you advice. There's a lot of worth to a person than, what they can just give you
Oh,
monetarily.
so
So,
much more than that. Purge
yeah,
says a buddy of mine
yeah.
started an ATM business and was curious about that. And Billy can answer some questions on that if you have any questions on that.
Yeah, Purge, I'm happy to, it's very straightforward, man. So if, you can always reach out to us. It doesn't have to be right now. It could be down the road. So
And Peter says, I believe friends and parents are big inspirations to who we become. My dad was a huge influence. That could be negative and positive. My dad was a huge influence, and he was an entrepreneur, which led me to have my own financial practice for over 20 years.
Nice. Peter, what kind of financial practice do you have?
Peter's a good dude, too. I know
Mhm.
Peter's been a,
Yeah.
a long time
Yeah,
friend of the
I
channel.
see him in the chats. So Billy, let me ask you, with the capital that you're receiving from the properties, and are you investing that capital?
well, right now I've been
Like,
using
are
that
you
gap.
reinvesting?
Yeah. So this is, I feel
Mm.
like where I got kind of, I got caught with my pants down a little bit. So for a while, I was buying a property like once every other month. Like that was my average. So I'd buy a
Mhm.
property, depreciate a property, renovate it cash, and then refinance it and
Yep.
just keep turning money over. So I just kept
When rates were around 3%.
oh yeah, rates. Well, I was doing
Yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
loans, so they were a little bit higher, 4.5,
Okay.
5%
Yep.
for commercial
For
side, but
Yep.
still like relatively cheap. And so I just kept reinvesting money over and over and over again, but I didn't have any money in reserve. And then
Mm.
COVID hits, and now I'm just like, shit, like, now people aren't paying. I got these bills to pay for. I got,
Yeah.
contractors to pay for, all this sort of stuff. And so then I took out lines of credit
Mhm.
to help pay for bills. Um, and that dramatically eats into a lot of my cash flow right now.
Yeah.
So I've been working extremely. I mean, I've paid off quite a bit of money over this past year. My goal was to pay off this money within the next 5 years, and it was over $100,000. So it
Yep.
is not chump change, I don't think. So
But
you
your
know,
assets your assets are appreciating, right? I mean, it's in the right asset. It's real estate. So,
yeah, they're appreciated, and I have a ton of equity in my portfolio. The
Mhm.
problem is the way I have my portfolio structured. I don't. They're not really straight rentals. They're called installment contracts, contract for deeds. They're also called like triple net leases.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, 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 yep.
okay, so it's just like a
Mm.
creative financing strategy, and it's a
Mhm.
good path for home ownership for people that maybe can't afford a home the traditional way.
Yep.
Um, but because I have my portfolio structured that way, I can't just sell the properties, because the people owe me like, they owe me a certain amount of money. The property
Correct.
might be worth way more than that.
Mhm.
So like but so let's say the person owes me 100,000, the property's worth, 150,000.
Mhm.
I had to have to sell the property to another investor for less than 100,000. So I'm losing all this equity.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just like, for every property that goes vacant, I'm renovating and selling, but all my properties right now are occupied. And,
Good.
I'm like just kind of breaking even. And then with, I got with this property that I'm dealing with, and they're just trying to drag this out tremendously and then I got lawyer fees and all this sort of stuff. So I feel like
Yep.
I'm in this quagmire with this particular aspect of my life that is draining me.
That's the second
Yeah.
time you've said quagmire.
Yeah, I know. I want to really emphasize that
Giggity.
word.
Peter says we do
Uh,
financial planning, which includes investment and insurance with offices in New York
Yep.
and New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, you definitely need a financial planner. I have 2 accountants and 2 financial planners. So one watches the other. So,
Smart.
yeah.
So we've been streaming now for 1 hour exactly. Do we want to add anything else?
Well, I think maybe before we wrap up, would it be because I'd like to, if you're okay with it, I'd like to kind of pick your brain a little bit more and see if you're willing, maybe to have some guidance for myself or even Jeff down the road. But would it be possible if I got your number and reached out to you, buddy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys can contact me, anytime. And if you ever want to do this again, just let me know. I'll make the time, we'll jump on. If anybody in the chat has questions or whatever, I'm more than willing to help anybody.
Cool. That'd be great, man. Yeah. Cause I would like to continue, this conversation, especially with, our path in life and what our goals are. So, I think you'd be a good guy to help. Other than that, man, any other last comments? Cause I know we got to kind of wrap up.
Words of wisdom with digital slang.
You got some words of wisdom?
We're going to do one words of wisdom.
All right, Dino, here we go. Here's Slang's words of wisdom.
And this kind of fits right into what we've been talking about.
Okay.
So it says, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, but involve me and I learn.
Wow. Very good.
Yeah. The importance of a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm that guy. I need to be involved. I need to be hands-on.
Yeah. Me too, man. Anyways, Dino, thank you so much for joining us, pal.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely be reaching out to you. I greatly appreciate that offer. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you everybody for listening and watching. And I guess that's it for today.
Yeah, like and subscribe the channel, Bourbon and Blunts and Digital Slang, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We are everywhere, audio only on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. And go ahead, like and support on YouTube at Bourbon and Blunts.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dino, I don't know if you want this, but can anybody find you anywhere?
Yeah, I'm I don't know. It's like official Dino Jordan on YouTube. Not YouTube.
What's up?
Instagram, Twitter. All of those. Just
say it one more time. You froze up, buddy. Say it one more time.
Oh no. It's Dino T Jordan on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay. Cool, man. Awesome.
Excellent. And I'll get you guys down to Florida. We'll all play around the golf and
let's do it.
That. I would love that. I would love to kick Jeff.
I'll introduce you to the circle down, down in Palm Beach, and you get to see what how the other half lives when I go down there.
Well, we would greatly appreciate that, and if you mean it, we will definitely come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Peter
all right,
says,
guys.
Pete says, great podcast. Appreciate everyone's time. And Aylin says, slang that's pretty much don't give a man a fish. Teach him how to fish so he'll have a fish for life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Dino, thank you.
Have a good weekend, guys.
You too, bud.
See you guys.
All right, take care.